Now, for our final segment of this special broadcast, I'm delighted to be joined by Marcus Saunders and David Gray. Gents, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
If you could please give us a little intro about what you do. I know you ran a great session earlier on, and we're going to have a little recap of that. But if you could tell us a bit about what you do in your day job, Marcus.
Thanks, Ben. So I'm Associate Director of Technical Resources at the London College of Fashion, which is part of University of the Arts. There's a lot of stuff in that sentence. But so over the last 6 months or so, I've been designing, building and delivering a ICVFX virtual production volume that's part of the Fashion Technology and Textiles Institute. And yeah, really that's where I met David, and we worked together on that project. So over to David.
Okay. My name's David Gray. I'm from a company called Virtual Pixels. And I spent the past few years in the golden era of large-scale in-camera VFX or virtual production, as we've been talking about today. And also today we've been trying to define, what is virtual production. But primarily specialized in the kind of film and episodic industries where people are trying to interface with these technologies for creative means, whether that's creating more collaboration on set, or can we make decisions earlier by interacting with digital twins, another big buzzword of the day.
Absolutely. Now, did you manage that in your discussion earlier to define what it is? Did you think you managed to demystify it a little bit?
We gave a definition, and I think because it's such a nascent industry, there's a lot of terminology out there, and there's a lot of people potentially calling the same things different words. So we kind of teed up some resources where people can if we can reach a shared definition at least, that'll make it easier for people who have no knowledge to at least get a foot in the door and understand what's being said, because there's a lot of terms.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing is the scale at which you're working at, because there's all the way from a Hollywood blockbuster Hollywood production that's on a massive stage, on a sound stage, right down to a small green screen studio in a university or a venue or So we tried to frame the discussion around perhaps how you could start there and then build up to a much larger implementation. Yeah,
sure. I mean, and that sort of leads on to my next question, which was about what are we looking at in terms of the spectrum of installs, from the very small to the very large, but also the things in between that people may not be aware of that they can do if they have the resources and they have the need.
Yeah. Well, we saw Marcus's own family has used their own an iPhone or iPad, a little bit of green screen from Amazon to create things on the kind of, very low scale. Then it transitions all the way up to massive, 75 meters by 9 meters wraparound LED. Obviously, very expensive.
Yeah.
In between, though, we've got smaller green screen studios that could be broadcast based. You've got smaller LED walls. But I think actually the thing to take away is, it's normally the same technology driving these stages. So it doesn't matter what window into that world we're taking, if you want to call it that way. It's a window that's green screen, it's a window that's iPad, it's a window that's a massive ICVFX stage. You can get on the tools and start developing those skills and actually pre-visualize, you can build a digital twin of this room if you wanted, and then pre-visualize, what's my event going to look like in this space. So the tools are accessible, and you don't have to buy all the super big expensive toys to start.
You don't. You can start with a phone, right? Yeah. So I think it was part of the conversation that's really important is to understand the principle around merging this digital world and the physical world at the point of the camera. And I think there are ways that you can do that literally with with an iPhone and the LiDAR that's built into most of the phones now, and some nice software. So the starting point, as David said, can be a 14 quid green screen cloth and an iPhone. But then sort of the next step up from there, if you've got a green screen studio in your organisation, is to add some camera tracking to that camera so that you can extend sets. So that's the XR principle. And then beyond that, you get into the LED walls and the much kind of larger scale investment in terms of having infrastructure and capability and capacity, which I think one of the things that was also a theme, and it's been a theme through the day actually, is how you build the capability and capacity in people and in the understanding and the knowledge. Because obviously, as you start projects like this, I certainly needed to work with consultancy and outside of my organisation to get that really deep knowledge that you need and experience that you need. But then you start thinking about how you gain that ability and capability in-house. And you can start, very, very humbly, YouTube videos out there that will teach you Unreal Engine. You can start looking at how to learn motion tracking, camera tracking. All of these resources are there. You just have to look for them.
And that again, as you say, that was something that was really important and sort of piqued my interest is, you can install this stuff. And I know that you've had an incredible install at the university recently, which I was lucky enough to see firsthand. And but it comes down to the skills of the people that run it. Would you say as well that if you are going to be kind of gradually ramping up your operation, that's a good way to gather those skills along the way?
Yeah, I mean, I think we were talking about this earlier, and I think the key skill is problem solving. It's how are you able to bring to bear that knowledge and understanding in one way is important, and having some access to some knowledge is important. But really the thing you're going to find as you start to build an XR space or an ICVFX space is you have a lot of problems to solve. And that could be just about how you build the thing in the first place, but then it moves into how do you start to operationalize when you're using something like Unreal Engine for ICVFX in actual practice. It takes a team of people to run a space like that. It can do. You can run it, simply, but actually, if you're running a full production, you need a team. You need to build that team. And I think for me, I had to really learn rapidly what would be involved in operationalizing a space like that.
Yeah, the Google will stop at some point for you, unfortunately, with these kind of very new workflows, and so will the manual. So that problem-solving ability to just look at a problem and be like, okay, I've tried that didn't work, what's the next steps? That's a huge part of what we look for in people.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a good point. We sometimes laugh and say, oh, what did we do before Google? You can Google anything now. But then this new technology is something that is almost ungoogleable past a certain point. So it's important to, and that's going to be about my next question is doing the research.
Just to say, it moves so quickly. We're saying 3 months. In 3 months, in the space of 3 months, ICVFX and virtual production as a discipline changes. It changes enormously. There's new terminology, there's new techniques. I was looking at something a couple of days ago about splitting up the inner frustum so that you can run that on different render nodes using SMPTE 2110. And that's like weeks old, right? And I think, that's exciting, but a lot of people won't find that exciting. But I'm just saying it's something that moves quickly. So I think it's not snapshot learning. You don't get to a point that you can do something. It's something that's continuously evolving over time.
And in the short amount of time we've got left, I'm really keen to find out, and I'm sure people watching are as well, from the client side and from the sort of like the consultant side, what makes good research and what makes a good bid a good customer, as it were? Yeah,
it's a good question. I've seen a lot of bids in the past few years, and I think one pitfall that people fall into is getting very technical very fast. It's natural. We're all geeks. We want to find the latest toys, but actually that level of detail is not useful. Just work out what your use case is, and in Marcus's case, that use case was, I don't know. Actually, it's an R&D space, so we made a system which would be more flexible. If you're more broadcast space, if you're more film-based, that's going to be really useful.
It's requirements, isn't it? Understand your requirements, and also understand essentially why you're setting out on this mission in the first place, and then work with people who really genuinely understand the subject matter.
Good. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, both of you. Thank you, and for running this session too, and for joining us at UpStream.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.